This is how we do stuff. This is the Cowboys. We're trying to do something. Be a leader. It's time to lead the football team. It's time. It's your time. It's our time right now. It's our time right now. It's our time right now.
He was a giant, and he was a cowboy. Now these two former rivals have joined forces to
Might as well face it. Can't stop us no matter how hard you try. I know you see us taking over. It ain't no lie. It's our time right now.
He was a giant, and he was a cowboy. Now these two former rivals have joined forces to bring you the most insightful, perceptive, and controversial sports talk podcast in America. Former Dallas Cowboys defensive end Jim Jeffcoat locks horns with former New York Giants wide receiver Byron Williams. And now, here's Byron Williams and Jim Jeffcoat.
Good evening, good evening. We are here tonight. Excited about this, ready to go. Oh, Byron Williams is here also.
What's up, Jim? What's going on?
What's up, Byron? How are you doing?
Hey, what a great week in football. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it is. There was some interesting things going on.
Yeah.
Real quick, one thing was what happened in the Packers game when the receiver, he wanted to fight everybody. Then he wanted to go back in the game after he got kicked out. And
that was the Seahawks. That was the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks.
Yeah. Metcalf. Yeah, he went back out on the football field thinking that wasn't nobody gonna see him.
Oh my goodness!
Hey, you just got to love those receivers, though, man. I tell you, receivers they'll try to sneak it in.
Yeah, they do. That's how receivers. He'll go over across the middle. He'll be on the bottom of piles and everything.
But you know what? The Seattle Seahawks didn't score a point. 17-0.
Yeah, Russell Wilson comes back, doesn't score a point, which is kind of shocking. And I didn't think Aaron Rodgers played that great, but he played well enough to win. And you got to look at it. We talked about this before the show. They are one of the teams that are probably one of the top, as we all know, in the NFC. You have to put Dallas in there. You got to put Green Bay. Obviously, you got to put Arizona in there.
Arizona, and I think Tampa Bay they're gonna sneak in there too. So you got
to give them their respect. If Tom Brady, the only thing that makes me a little worried about Tampa Bay is Tom Brady with all, and nobody's not saying that he's great, but age might be catching up to him finally. I mean, he is 44 years old, and it might be just his body is taking a pounding over the years. Obviously, from playing so long, he's been sacked the most ever in the NFL, and maybe that's starting to catch up to him.
Yeah, he didn't like his old self this past week against the Washington team. So, the offensive line is not protecting as well as it was a year ago as well. So those are some of the things that's happening. I think that, but like I was telling you last week, teams that coming off the bye are 6-6. So maybe they was a little rusty. Maybe they took a little bit of too much time off, and they didn't look that good last week.
That could be true because that happened to the Cowboys too. And you and somebody else were talking about how the Cowboys were playing. They might have been in the same boat. They might have went to Cabo or Cancun or something. Who knows? Laying on the beach somewhere. You're right about that.
Hey, somebody told me that Dak had some hickets on his neck.
I don't look at that like that, so I don't know.
Hey, you better make sure them
That's
Cowboys
too much information.
Hey, you better make sure them Cowboys stay focused because this better be the second half. This is for the money round right now. The second half of the season.
Yeah, we're gonna find out a little bit about them in Kansas City because Kansas City did play well last week.
Yeah,
and they played. They scored 41 points.
41 points. Yeah, 41-14.
They did
against those Raiders. The Raiders are having some problems, So yeah.
Yeah, they are. They are there. Maybe it's starting to catch up with them with all the controversy. I said fired, but they released 2 number 1 picks And they signed Deshaun Jackson, and he comes in and fumbles.
Man, he caught a big. I don't know why he don't try to just lay his butt down. He ain't gonna. Once you get caught, I don't know he's trying to make a move or what. But that's a stupid play on his behalf, and it's you got to be smart out there on the football field. It's small errors, room for errors, and you can't make those type of mistakes. You can't turn the ball over.
No question, no question. And now some of the things that we talked about the Raiders doing well, they're getting exposed. They're getting exposed a little bit. And then they got a game this week, and then they got a quick turnaround because they play on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys in Dallas. Yeah, so that's not an easy deal for either team.
I'll tell you now, they're going to come to Dallas, and it's going to be 100-some thousand people at the game. So they might well get ready for the fans going to be all over them. So hopefully,
no question. And it's a later game.
Yeah,
it's a 3:00 game, so that actually helps the Cowboys because their fans seem to get more rowdy in the afternoon as opposed to the mornings or noon games.
Well, they drank a little bit longer, They get out there at 8 o'clock in the morning. They get drunk at 3. The game started at 3. Shit, at 4 quarter, they all over the place hollering and yelling. You know the sound in that atmosphere.
Yeah. Plus, it's not a Sunday game, so they're not coming home from church. So
absolutely,
that's big in Texas.
That's big in Texas, and they're gonna be eating that turkey and dressing out there too. So,
but also let's talk about a little bit about the Monday night game, the 49ers. I picked the 49ers to beat the Rams. I thought that the 49ers they got cheated in Arizona. That was awful officiating, and they got some bad calls against them. And I thought, like I said, everybody's on Jimmy G. I'm not a big Jimmy G guy, but he has been playing pretty well this year.
Man, he playing. He turned that team around. I mean, they playing with some confidence. And one thing about Jimmy G, he don't make those mistakes. And but this past week, he played a phenomenal game against the Rams, and he did exactly what he needed to be doing out there. He was a field general, and hit his players. And they had a good game plan, a real good game plan.
Yeah, I noticed this. This is what I noticed. Everybody talks about the Rams defense, which they should. Jalen Ramsey and the other Aaron Donald, and now they got Von Miller. But they are struggling against teams, and I think teams, as well as I do, copycat against the run. They are not playing the run very well.
Absolutely. I don't care when you look at it, when a team can come in and run the ball and consistently down after down, get you 5 to 6 on first down. Hey, you got the defense in a pickle that they don't know what to do. So
no question.
The game plan is when you run that ball good, I don't care who you're playing, you got a better chance of winning these games.
Yeah. Two of my favorite players, my favorite player on the 49ers is Debo. I like his name, Savage. But Debo is a different kind of player.
You know how he got that name? Well, when he was a little boy, he was taking everybody candy and stuff. So his dad started calling him Debo because he was a bully, right? So he started taking everybody candy and stuff. So his dad said, "Get over that, Debo. Stop taking everybody's stuff."
He's still taking everybody candy.
Hey, he played like a bully, and he made things happen on the football field.
And Kilba, he was playing well too, the tight end. He played well. And they finally played up to their ability. Plus, we go back to it. They ran the ball against the Rams. The Rams are struggling stopping the run. They got great players, but they are not playing sound fundamentals. So that's the big thing that the 49ers had an advantage on them because the Rams got all that talent, but they forced the Rams to play their type of game.
Well, if you notice, they got the best defensive lineman, Aaron Donald. Then they got the best linebacker, Von Miller. Then they got the best secondary guy, right? So they probably have these 3 marquee players, which would be World Bowl, Pro Bowl, Hall of Famers, right? But let me tell you something. It's still a 11-man game. You still got to play consistent. But 2, they hadn't all played together, too. They just not formulating that team. So that's another thing.
Yeah, what did you think of OBG in his first game? And we'll get to you, Jason.
I just think it's gonna take some time. You have to go in there and learn the system, get familiar with Matthew Stafford and all that. So you still have to get in there and get some repetition together, get some timing down, and he should be better this week. So I don't think what people don't realize, you just ain't gonna go and join a team and think you're gonna catch 100 yards, a couple of touchdowns your first week without any kind of timing and practice. It don't work that way because everybody on that football field is a professional, and you got to put in your time. You really do.
I was reading an article by Troy Aikman, and he felt that Matthew Stafford was forcing the ball to OBJ. And if you look at the film, he was. I mean, he tried to find him, and OBJ at that time when he threw the first interception was double covered.
Exactly.
And the second one wasn't until it was to the tight end. But I think Stafford thought he was still in Detroit after that game.
Absolutely. He looked like it because when he threw that ball along that deep ball and OBJ had to go and hit that guy that made the interception, he should have threw it more towards the sideline versus upfield. And that right there just to show you they're not on the same page yet. So
no,
they'll
not
get it
yet.
down. Yeah, not yet.
Not yet. And they got time, but if I was the Rams, I'd be concerned. That's the second loss. And there's something that's not clicking. And maybe they thought they had an all-pro team, but all-pro teams are different than playing as a team. So
no matter how you look at it on paper, you still got to go out there on that field.
Exactly. You still got to play.
The Rams are 7-3 right now. They would be a good wild card team. They ain't good enough to be. They right now they're not winning. They don't have a better record than the Cardinals. So they 7-3.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit. Jason was talking about Minnesota and the Packers play this week. And I'm going out on a limb. I'm picking Minnesota. Now, here's the thing. In the history of it, Aaron Rodgers is 7-6 against the Minnesota.
7-6? Okay.
7-6. He's only won one game more than he's lost against them. But I just got a feeling Minnesota's back is against the wall. Not a Kirk Cousins guy, but I think Kirk Cousins has been playing well. And if they can play well enough on defense, they can give Rodgers some issues. And
I want to say this. They suspect at home. They play it, so the Packers are going to the Green Bay, going to the Vikings stadium. So that they haven't won too many games at home, the Vikings. So I just think too, if Aaron Rodgers get in that hot mode that he have, I don't know if the Vikings gonna be able to sustain that butt whipping that he gonna put on. I'm gonna take my chances. I'm taking the Packers.
Now, here's the thing. I think Harrison Smith is being activated this week.
Okay.
I think one of the teams that can give the Packers trouble is because of the running game of Minnesota. I think Minnesota's running game can give them trouble, and that's why I'm picking Minnesota. I think they can expose some of the things on their defense because they're strong enough to do that. And then you have the receivers, obviously, that can make some plays off the play action. It's going to be on the running game and Kirk Cousins not giving them easy plays by throwing interceptions, fumbles, and things that he can be prone to do. This is Zimmer's got to win, or he could be out.
But they need to win. It'll make a big statement and give them a lot of momentum. Justin Jefferson and the receivers got to come through. Number 19, they got to come through, and Kirk Cousins, he just got to play every football. He got to hang in there. Yeah.
Now we can also go on that this was a lot of upsets this week. Miami beating Baltimore, but if you remember last week, I talked about going to Miami is not an easy task. I played there in Dallas and I played there in Buffalo.
Yeah.
That is a hard place to play. The atmosphere is a little different.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things. That's one of the things that once you understand going into these other stadiums, and we talked about it last week, playing in Denver and playing in Miami is the atmosphere is a little bit different for players coming from out of town and trying to play in those stadiums because you it's hard to breathe or hard to get your second win. And the Ravens they look bad. They really did.
Yeah, they did. That was the first time. It's just funny thing about playing in Miami, and you've obviously played there, is humidity.
Yeah.
You don't really, it could be a 70 degrees day, but the humidity hits you and just something about it. And it's not easy, and it hasn't helped Miami this year that much, but it helped them against, obviously, Lamar Jackson. He over there yelling at his players, and you very rarely see him have that much emotion. So something must have been really bothering them about the whole game. And then after this game, they cut Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
They cut him, and it looked at him. He only had 2.6 average running in 5 games. So, and they say they might bring him back for the practice squad, but who knows what they're going to do.
Well, when you get in your 30s, man, I'm just telling you, you and I know what it looks like in the NFL. Unless you just one of those marquee players that still had a good, perfect career going, you just are one player away from just being outdoors. And that's the way it is. That's the way it is in the NFL. I mean, he's in his 30s. All his good years are behind him. These teams now are looking for immediate impact players to come in and help them get to the next level. That next level is to go to the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl in LA. Yeah.
Now we got a question on AFC North. AFC North, all of them are having their problems because look, last week Pittsburgh is in a tie with Detroit. Cincinnati, were they on a bye last week?
Yeah, they was on the bye last week. Yeah, Cincinnati they was on the bye.
But it's the AFC North is supposed to be one of the better conferences, and they struggled. I mean, shoot, who knows? 7, 8, 9 wins might win that conference.
Yeah, after the Ravens are 6-3. The Steelers are 5-3, Bengals are 5-4, and the Browns are 5-5. And right now it's still up in the air that anybody can win that conference, AFC North. So that's one of those conferences that everybody's right there together. Because everybody in that conference been leading that conference at least 1 week.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it's been rotating. Yeah.
I think the most disappointing team in that division is Cleveland, because everybody was picking them. They were, a favorite to some people to win the Super Bowl. I think that when you have a guy like Baker Mayfield, there's no question about his talent, but he's inconsistent. Going
up to Cincinnati, and they putting it on Cincinnati in Cincinnati, and then flipping and going to New England, it looked like 2 different teams, and you just can't have that. You can't be consistent, and those road games are very important. They're going up there. I thought they were going they're getting it right now. They OBJ is gone. Seemed like they got scoring 41 points against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now they go and lay an egg against the New England Patriots. That's not football.
Yeah, no question about that. There's no question about that, and it's difficult in the NFL to stay. It's not a sprint. Jimmy Johnson used to tell us it is a marathon.
Exactly.
And you have to play at a consistent level to be successful. Bill Parcells and Belichick is doing that in New England. They're at a consistent level. They're not too high. They're not too low. They play on that level plane.
And each and every week, you got to play good, sound, fundamental football, and that's what you're gonna get from Belichick teams. I mean, you got to know that you playing this guy. He's a chess. He moved the things around, and he create a chance to win every game. Some teams play to lose, and some teams play to win. And Belichick teams are always in it to win. You got to play them. You got to play your best game against those teams.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we got the Rocket backstage right now. You guys ready for it?
Bring Rocket in.
Bring him in.
All right. Bring him right.
What's up, Rock?
What's good, brethren?
You got one more return left in you?
Hey, man, I got a mental rep if you need it.
The Great
Oh.
Rocket, man. The Great Rocket.
Hey, man, what y'all talking about? Belichick? Is something in the news going on I don't know about?
No. We talk about how New England is playing. They've won 4 games in a row. The last game they lost to is the team that has that you have that star on your hat. They lost to them. Since then, they haven't lost. You know,
Man, I'm telling you something. When I think about New England, it reminds me of one of the greatest lessons that I didn't know about, and just I think subconsciously just assumed that when I got to the NFL or the pro ranks, because I played in the CFL 2 years before I got to the NFL, I felt like I was going to have the best coaching available. And after 7 years of being a guy that was I was good enough to start, and I did, but I still had a lot of untapped potential, especially as a receiver. I wasn't able to actually tap into that potential and maximize it until I was in an environment that had everything you assume every pro environment has. And that's when I got to the Carolina Panthers. And it was like from the receiving coach to Coach Williamson, who essentially helped me to get my toughness back, to the organization and their ability to. They had a Chip. I think is I forget it. I don't recall his last name. Don't hold that against me. But the strength and conditioning coach and the program that they implemented, which allowed me to be able to take the rigors, the physical rigors of the NFL, and be able to actually play an entire season with minimal injuries, and then to be in an environment where they were able to pick and choose who they wanted to be a part of their team as the veteran leadership. Man, I'll never forget this. One of the and I don't know if you guys had the same experience, but for me, one of the highlights of the offseason would be, and this is when everybody would go to the facility every day in off season. Now it's a little different, but when they would release the schedule for the team and everybody would look at the schedule and be excited or be disappointed or whatever. Well, when I was with the Raiders, and I mean, these were Hall of Fame guys that were doing this, we'd look at the schedule, and I'm just a young guy, so I'm just following their lead. And this goes to the importance of environment. And they would have and this would every year. This is how I was. I was there for 4 seasons. They would look at the schedule, and if in the beginning of the year they had us going down to Miami, the response would be, they got the NFL is against us. They send us down to Miami. We're in 75-degree weather. Miami's going to be 90 degrees with 100% humidity. Man, we're not built for that. We're not going to be able to have a good opportunity to win in that game. And then if they would look further in November, December, and they had us going to Buffalo, or if they had us going to Green Bay, it would be the same sentiment, but just they would be like, it's too cold and what have you. And I brought that from that environment because I'm thinking, okay, these are guys that people respect their names. People know their names if I mention them. We get to Carolina, and now, I'm 7 years in the league, and as a professional, I'm like, okay. So I'm holding court when they released the Carolina schedule. And I remember it was Kevin Green, Eric Davis, Sam Mills. I think Brett Maxey was a part of it, maybe Toy Cook. And then it was a bunch of just like guys who were just trying to make it in the league. And so we get out of workouts, and I'm coming in and I'm holding court. And I'm like, man, look at this. They got us going now. I'm doing the same thing that was done with the Raiders, except this is how I knew it was different. When I was doing it, after about the third excuse that I was making on why it was going to be difficult for us to win, how come we weren't going to have a chance, I remember Eric Davis, like all the names I mentioned, they were all in the background, kind of just observing. Not kind of observing, they were observing. And then I remember Eric Davis said, Rocket, man, any of these games you think we can't win, you keep your little ass at home because we plan on winning them all. And then he went into a rant about how he was sick and tired of having to get everybody's mindsets right, even the coaches, because he came from the 49ers. The 49ers were like what the New England Patriots were in this modern day football realm. And it was like, I understood, okay, man, it's more to winning than just you have a bunch of talented guys. Exactly. Man, the coaches, the environment, how people, the expectations of the people in the building, the belief, which are the belief systems of the people in the building, like it goes way beyond that. And then for me personally, I got checked right then. And somebody had the credibility. This guy has Super Bowl rings up and down his hand, and he got the credibility to check me. And then I remember we got the offensive coordinator from the Green Bay Packers. His name was Gil Haskell. He was a receivers coach or quarterback coach, something like that. But he was our offensive coordinator when he came to Carolina. We're in the offseason training. We're doing like a mini camp. And on one of the routes, I think Ray Caruth was running the route. He said, "That's it, 6-2. And I was like, 6-2. What's going on? That's not a part of the offense. I go up to him and I said, "Coach, what are you talking about 6-2?" Oh, he's like, 6 steps in, 2 steps to get out. And up until that point, I only thought that you only counted steps on a 3-step slant. On every other route, it was just, okay, 5 yards, 10 yards, 12 yards, 15 yards, 20. And I never knew that you could count steps on every route you ran. Man, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, wait a minute. Because I was the kind of guy up until that point, I'd have to get up to the line of scrimmage. I'd have to count the amount of yards in my head, like looking at it before I got there. Then I'd have to make sure I run. I had to put my head down. Like I was such a terrible receiver looking back on it now. And it was a blessing that I had potential because guys wanted to keep me around. But it was like when he said that and I started implementing it, all of a sudden I came this precise route runner. Even if the DBs were bump and run and they were safe, they got me, and I in my mind I would still have the right timing to go off. And all of a sudden I became this amazing receiver, and it was just because of coaching. And it was like all these things, going back to the original point, all of the things that I took for granted, just like, hey, when I get to the NFL, every NFL team is not built the same. And the coaching, the environment that the coaching sets, the expectations that are set, just because it's a popular team doesn't mean they have all those other ingredients in place. And it's a reason if you're consistently successful in the NFL, or if you consistently have, like with Green Bay, I look back on it after he told me that, I was like, I know they had Brett Favre back then, and before that they had Don Majkowski and all them cats, but I was like, it's not a mistake that they always have a high-level receiver, no matter what year. Green Bay always, and a part of that is because of the mentality that was set and the knowledge and the information that they share with their guys that allows them to reach their full potential. So, man,
that's a good point. I never thought of it like that.
Man, I'm telling you, man, it is not a coincidence that certain teams, certain positions, certain organizations have success consistently year in and year out.
Yeah, when I first went to Green Bay, I was drafted by Green Bay. I learned so much from James Lawson and John Jefferson, and they were so precise. And that's a good point. A lot of teams don't get that to have that advantage and don't have that knowledge, that input, and that's what makes a lot of people different on playing in the National Football League.
Yes.
Yeah, and the same thing for me coming in and playing with Randy White, Ed Too Tall Jones, Harvey Martin, John Dutton. They taught me so much by learning to see things that you normally don't see when you come into the league. And they made me a better player by, hey, do you see this? And I'm like, what? I don't see anything. I'm just trying to survive right now. But once you take their knowledge and they give you that knowledge and it helps you become a better player. I agree 100%. And I was fortunate enough to have Ernie Stautner, who's a Pro Football Hall of Famer, as my coach. And he played for 19 years. And those things had helped me become a better. So you're right about that.
Hey, Rocket, I wanted to ask you, fast as you was, and you was always the fastest guy on every team you played on. And do you like running routes across the middle? Jim Jeffcoat was talking about receivers being on the bottom of the pile. We ain't never had the experience being on the bottom of the pile. Can you elaborate a little bit about catching those deep passes and then running across the middle and then turning it up and making those highlight plays?
So for me, I was a running back in high school. I was a running back. When I first saw the NFL when I was 5 years old, I was watching the Super Bowl. The Cowboys and the Steelers were playing. I wasn't watching it. My sister was watching the game. She's a big Cowboys fan, and I was very interested in going up and smacking her in the back of the neck and then causing trouble and running. I get right to do it, and I'm looking at the television, and we're looking at, the TV screen was about as big as my phone right now, and literally it's about that big, and I was like, what is this? She said, it's football, and I was like, football? She started explaining it to me, and she was like, I'm a Cowboys fan. Well, I was like, well, I can't like who my sister's like, so I like the other team. So I became a Steelers fan. Franco Harris became my man. Then I became infatuated with football. So my mentality, especially back in the day before they told us about the head injuries and where I grew up, the more color you had on your helmet, or if your face mask was bent, man, that's like that's a stripe of a well-worn soldier, man. I was like, you're tough, man. You're hard. You got what it takes. So I say all that to say I carried that mentality all the way through college, all the way through the CFL. Like, man, whenever it came to getting physical, and I had an advantage because I was so small, people aren't going to expect that from me. Man, I would light cats up. So I say that to say, mentality-wise, I dug going across the middle. I dug the physical aspects of it. And the only thing that really prevented me from being able to do it consistently was the fact that when I was with the Raiders, it was a veteran-led organization. So for instance, after practice, they had us do a workout or something. We'd go in to get the workout done, and then like the veteran, they'd be like, well, I know this isn't good for my body. I know this isn't good for my body. And I do this in the off season. And so the veteran already knew how to preserve themselves. I'm a young buck. I don't know how to preserve myself yet. So I'm just doing what he's doing. But now, because I have that rough and tumble mentality, because that was the way I was going, and I was getting physical, it was like I would only last for 8 games. And then an injury or something would come. And then all of a sudden, the guys would be like, man, you're not durable. And I'd be like, well, I'm tough. I'm not doing. I didn't know that you can play whatever style. You just have to prepare yourself to play that style. And I wasn't able to have that in the environment when my first pro days came. But then later on, I got into that kind of environment, and I was able to understand, okay, this is how you prepare. This is how you go about being a professional. And I had guys like you guys were mentioning earlier that would say, okay, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. This is how you eat. This is how you have to sleep, like stuff like that. And before you knew it, it was like, man, I was able to, I had the endurance. I had everything that I needed. The only thing that I wish I would have had it earlier was because I could tell when I turned 29, I could tell my explosion started to diminish. And when I say my explosiveness, I didn't learn this until years later, but when men turn 27, typically your growth hormone starts to diminish. Yep. And it depends how much you have in the bank, if you will. Some men, it's slower than others, but in a general sense, your growth hormone starts to diminish. And that growth hormone is that like fountain of youth that we have. You go to sleep. If you get a good night's rest, man, your body's going to replenish with that growth hormone on a high level. So anyway, I remember when I got to the Cowboys, I could feel it. Now, I was still fast. I'm still running 4.3s.
Really athletic. You can see athletic.
However, I wasn't running like 4.2, 4.8, 4.18s and 4.12s, but that was that initial explosion that came with just my genetics. So it was like, I wish if I would have had the information that I had later in my career in the beginning, man, it could have been some straight up fireworks. But to answer your question, man, going across the middle for me, I loved it because mentality wise, It was like I know I can run deep, run a post, but man, I like going across the middle because I like the physical contact. I just didn't have the knowledge to say, okay, this is how you have to prepare if that's what you want to put your game into, and that's how you want to expose yourself while you're on the field. So yeah, man, I wasn't backing down from no smoke.
Hey, real quick, tell us a little bit about your experience at Notre Dame. You hear about it all the time, but a little bit about your experience there. Now, did you play for Lou Holtz?
That's right. I played for Lou Holtz. I got there in '88, my freshman year. And let me tell you something, my experience can be summed up, and I have a better scope of the normal experience that guys go through. My son, he's went through college, played football.
Wyoming, right?
My nephews played college football. My one nephew is still at Villanova right now, 6'8" receiver. So I understand now a little more, but when I went through, man, it was all grace, man. It was so effortless. I had so much favor. I had so much power, which is a characteristic of grace, to do things and to rise to certain occasions in spite of my not being a refined receiver and a small running back, if you will. And so it was like, in summation, that was my college experience. My learning about Notre Dame came because my father died when I was 10. My mother now working 3 jobs. My brothers and I are 10, 9, and 6. And my grandmother said, yo, send the boys to live with me. I know you're gone all the time. And we went to move to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania from Newark, New Jersey. And it was really strategic because, man, crack cocaine totally destroyed the fabric of what Newark was when we were living there.
I grew up in New Jersey too, so I would agree with you.
Oh, bruh. Let me tell you something. Newark was a tough place, but once crack came, it became like extra murderous, extra lascivious, extra everything that was bad was amplified by 1,000.
Yeah.
And we used to call a phone booth that was in front of our house back when they had phone booths. We used to call a phone booth on spring break. My mother would give us some extra money for long distance call, and we would get what's happening in the neighborhood. Man, some of the conversations that we would have with whoever would pick up the phone, and they'd be like, yo, this is happening, this happened, this happened. Like, it blew my mind. And so understanding, coming from that, we go to Wilkes-Barre, we get into an environment where the expectations we had one of the best coaches in Pennsylvania history. We had one of the best high schools. My grandmother, the community, like everybody got behind us. One of the first guys I met, Brian DeWire, his dad he lived in Mountaintop, but he bought another house right behind the school so his son could go there and play football for that coach. Man, I met them. They happen to be raging Notre Dame fans. I'd only go to Penn State back in the day. Penn State and Georgia because of Herschel Walker. And then I knew about all, but primarily it was Penn State and Georgia. And all of a sudden, I find out about this place called Notre Dame. And man, he is like, hey, you're going to, and now mind you, he's telling me this when I'm 11, 12, 13, 14. Like I didn't weigh 100 pounds until my junior year in high school, man. I was so small. It was crazy, man. Bro, my coach, my sophomore year, he wouldn't put me in the game until the second half because his logic was, okay, they're going to be a little more tired in the second half, so they won't hurt you. They won't be able to hit you as hard. Yeah. So all of a sudden, they're like, he's indoctrinating me like, man, Notre Dame, this is what you're going to do. And when he would tell us stories about Notre Dame, when we would be in the locker room as freshmen, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, we'd have to vacuum the floor. We'd have to organize the varsity lockers. We'd have to put the shoelaces in. We had to make sure the pads were in order. Like, we had to keep everything clean. And then his dad would come in on a coaching break, and he would say, he would smoke his pipe, and he would tell us stories about Notre Dame. And it would sound like, I don't know if you ever saw like The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings or any of those movies.
Yeah.
But when he would tell us the stories, it would sound like he was telling us this mythological place, like going to Narnia or something. Like it was this place that only existed in the football universe in some imaginary section that, and we would be in there like, oh man, he'd be like, and then after every story, he'd be like, Rocket, you're going to Notre Dame, you're going to be a legend, you're going to be all these things. Every time they say rock, they're going to say, which one, Rock Me or Rocket? Like he would say stuff like that. And I'm just, you're young, you like to hear when you're young, people speaking life into you. And so I would be like, okay. And so I would imagine myself, I'm going to Notre Dame. And this is before college even became a thing. And then my junior year, one of the highlights of our lives, we used to drive 3 hours to northern New York to a place called Syracuse University.
Mm-hmm.
They had the Carrier Dome, and their team was amazing, man. With Don McPherson was the quarterback, Scott Schwades, Moose Johnson, forget the Mike. Oh, I forget the brother's name. His younger brother was a hoop star. He was a tailback. They had all these superstars on there. I think Coach Wosick was strength and conditioning coach at the
Mike.
time. Yeah, Mike was there. Rest in peace. Paul was there. Marcus Paul, and then this was the year before. So it was the end of my junior year. It was the summer before my senior year. They took us up to go to a football camp there, man. And it was probably about 300, maybe 350 campers. And so they were like, all right, we're going to the Carrier Dome today, and we're going to test you guys in a 40. And so my fastest 40, and bro, I thought I was blazing. My freshman year, I ran a 4.7. You couldn't tell me nothing, bruh. And mind you, my freshman year, I was probably about 5'3", maybe 5'4", maybe like 85, maybe 90 pounds, something like that. But I was blazing. I could not be stopped. Bruh. Bruh. All of a sudden, we are up there. And so now I'm probably about 5'8". I might be in my junior year, so I might have been about 100. Into my junior year, that's probably about 125 pounds, something like that. Man, I put my hand on that doggone ground, and they said, okay, when you run your 40, run down to Randy Etzel and Dagnabbit, he's at New England. I think it was because Wosick, I think, was starting us. Randy and the running back coach, Ivan Fears, maybe. I forget the name. But I see him on TV from time to time. They were timing. So once you run, you come back to them, they tell you your time, then you run back and you tell a guy by the starting line your time, and then it's it. Man, I get down, boom. I run, bam. I turn around, come back. Man, Randy Etzel and the other guy were looking at their watches like this. And then they looked at each other, and Randy said, what do you have? And the guy was like, no, what do you have? And then they both looked at me. They were like, can you run that again? And I was like, okay. Man, you got all kind of energy when you're young. You can do whatever. Man, I could have ran it 10 times. All of a sudden, I run back down to the starting thing. They said, hey, what's your time? I said, they didn't tell me. They said I have to run it again. They're like, oh, that's strange. Okay. Man, I put my hand on the ground again. Man, I whacked. Bam. Man, they didn't even wait for me to come back. They went and gathered together, and then they took a little short distance over to the stands where all the parents and all the coaches and all the assistants were standing. And I said, hey, coach, what's my time? He's like, no, just go back, get out of here. Get out of here, kid. So I went back down to the starting, and he said, what's your time? I said, well, they didn't tell me. And he said, what is going on? All of a sudden, in the stands, because Syracuse is the Carrier Dome is a very intimate stadium. So it's like the stands are right on the sidelines, which are right on the field. So it's a tough place to play if Syracuse is doing good. Them fans getting crazy. Anyway, all of a sudden, it was like remember the wave back in the day where people stand up, they stand up, do that? Man, it was like an audible wave.
Wow.
40 yards away. They were like, you heard murmur like 47, 47, 47, and then it got a little closer, 43, 4, 4, 4. And then about 15 yards away, they were like, that kid ran a 4-3, 4-3, and the whole it might have been about maybe 100 people in the stand. They're like, oh my God, 4-3, what? And I was like, 4-3. I was like 4-7. I was like, I thought it was gonna run like a 4-6 or something like
Right,
that.
you ran.
Even that 4-6. Man, all of a sudden, my coach and Mr. DeWine came over. He said, "Hey man, we got to go. Let's get out of here." And all of it from that point, all over the college football world, there's a guy in Pennsylvania that's running 4-3, and his name is Rocket. Just spread everywhere, and then that made it where Coach Holtz came to the school. And here's the funny thing: you know how in the program. In the program, they'll have you listed like at 5'10", 170 or something. So my brother Kadri, he was the fullback. Now he was a legitimate at my junior, senior. He was like 5'10", 5'11". He actually got to 6 foot. Man, I'm still in the 5'7", 5'8" range, and so coach, and I'm real slight. Like because I'm running track, I'm playing basketball. Like I'm not no weight on me, nothing. So Coach Holtz comes to the school, and man, we get called to the athletic director. Rocket and Kadri, can you come to the athletic department? Or they would say Q. They wouldn't say Kadri. It's GQ they used to call him. And could you come to Coach Gorham's office? Something. Man, Coach Holtz is standing in the hallway in front of the door with his glasses on, and we walk up to him, and he said, I'm looking him dead in the eye, because they teach you to shake a firm handshake, look the man in the eye when you're talking to him. So I walk up to him. I said, "Hey, so how are you?" He said, I'm trying to do his accent, but I'll laugh too much. So he said, you must be Kadri. I said, no. I said, no, I'm Rocket. And his his eyes were like, what the? But he didn't want to give it away. And he was like, they lied to me. Like this little strip, he'll never make it. And so he's like, and like literally when I looked in his eyes and I saw him like that stunned, like, what? How they tell me this guy? Man, I thought I lost any opportunity to go to this mythical place in South Bend, Indiana called Notre Dame. And literally, a long story short, that was the like the seal of the deal. I ended up winning like state championship in 100, and my brother and I were the main reasons. My brother set the state championship in the 110s, and we had like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. We had like 60 points between us. So we won back-to-back states in the 100. I mean, in track and field, and so our name just spread throughout the states and all throughout the college football world. And once I understood Notre Dame, all the stuff that Mr. Dwyer was telling me back when I was a little pipsqueak, and I was just a bigger pipsqueak, man, all of the doggone stuff started coming true. And it just started, and it didn't stop the whole time I was at Notre Dame. And again, I'm saying this under the understanding the context of the college football experience. Everybody doesn't have it that way. Man, it was nothing but up until I decided to go pro and entered into I was going to be NFL draft, but ended up going to the CFL. Man, everything was like smooth sailing. So anyway, that was my Notre Dame experience in a nutshell. If you got some specifics, I can tell you that, but I know I'm ranting. Please.
We enjoyed it. I enjoyed having you on.
But then, you know what, I want to say something real quick. I'm real good friends with Tim Brown and Rocket, right? So I wanted Rocket to tell me a story about him and Tim, because these guys are super guys, they're great guys, and I love both of them, man.
Man, I'm telling you, one of the funniest stories about Tim. So Tim was like the elder statesman. And he was a young guy, but he was the best receiver, the best returner, and he had like a more mature type of disposition when I got to the Raiders. And so we were watching. Y'all remember Martin?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were watching Martin one day, and I was watching it, and we used to mimic the characters he would do. So when he would do Brother Man, there was the security guard that was named Otis. Otis, the security guard.
Yeah.
And so when Otis was getting ready to encounter somebody, or this was this karate guy. I forgot his name. What was the karate dude's name? Y'all remember?
I can't remember his name, but I know you're talking
anyway, maybe it was like Dragonfly Jones.
That was something like that.
But anyway, we were like, I remember on one episode, Otis, the security guard, stepped to this robber. I was like, getting ready to take you down right there, boy. Getting ready to take it down. And he grabbed the dude, but the dude was real strong, so he couldn't move. He started shaking. And so I was like, Tim, I said, if one of us score, we're going to do the getting ready to take you down, boy, dance. And we went and played in Cincinnati. Tim caught like a drag rider over the middle. And it was hilarious because I ran up to him. I was like, bro, let's do it. And we did the getting ready to take you down, boy. Getting ready to take you down. And it was so funny because it was out of his character, but he was gracious enough to, entertain us young folks when we was out there saying, yo, man, we should add this a little twist to what we're doing out here on the field. So that was one. Man, he would always organize us in regards to, like, if anybody said a cuss word or a bad, inappropriate word, he'd collect money from you. He'd collect money from you. But then, at the end of the year, he would get all the money, man. It was a lot of crazy words. Get all the money and then take us out to this real nice restaurant, go out to dinner. It was beautiful, special like that. And so, man, that brother, I'm so thankful that he was a part of my first experience because it made the transition a little better coming from the CFL and the Toronto Argonauts and then entering into the NFL, man. So I'm forever thankful to the Most High for that, brother, for sure.
That's a good story.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Hey, we love having you, and we want to talk about a couple other things that are going on in the NFL and a couple of games. But anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome to come back.
Man, thank you, brother. I appreciate you, brothers. Thank you for the opportunity, for the time, man, and look forward to the next time.
All right.
All right, thanks, Rocky.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, brother.
Okay.
All right. Got a couple of things before we don't have that much time, but the Giants are 11.5-point underdog to Tampa Bay.
That's crazy.
What is your I don't think it's going to happen. They're going to be I think the Giants going to play them tough. I think Tampa Bay is not playing defense as well. I think, like we said earlier in the show, Brady is not playing, and he could turn it on, but he does look like a 44-year-old man playing right now. But he has the receivers. He has the people around him that can make him look better. And then Bruce Arians got on him. Bruce Arians got on him this week, and he got on the whole team about how they're playing. But this shows the difficulties in the NFL about repeating. It is difficult to repeat. And I had asked that question earlier, not today, but before, is that how many times has Brady repeated as champion? Because it is difficult. It is not easy. That second year is a lot tougher.
Well, and I think that's where Brady's gonna add a little bit more value to Tampa Bay, to the whole team. He gonna talk about some things when you have a bad game, how to come back and bounce back and do some things. And they play it in front of their home field. The Giants got to go down there and play them in Tampa. So I don't think the Giants gonna be good enough to beat them. But I just think too they got that bad game out of the system. And I think they just got to stay focused for the rest of the year. And that's my approach. If I was Bruce Arians, that would be what I would be emphasizing all week. We made these mistakes. We turned the ball over on offense quite a bit. These are some of the things. And their defense haven't been playing, though, really. Their defense don't look that good compared to the way they played last year. Yeah.
And in a similar stance is the Cowboys go to Kansas City. And the Cowboys, we got to find out what they are. Was that just an abbreviation on what happened against the Denver? And are they that good? Because if they can win in Kansas City, it's gonna open a lot of eyes. And
well, I can tell you this: their defense is playing lights out right now. And Michael Parsons, man, he looked the part. He's really bringing a lot of energy to the defense. 3 sacks, all those tackles behind the line of scrimmage. You know, he playing lights out. If he can go and add that same type of mentality against Kansas City Chiefs this week, Kansas City gonna have a rough time.
Yeah, the only thing I worry about is here, Mahomes obviously he can move. They're gonna have to run down Mahomes. And if you ever notice, Kelsey and Tyreek Hill always find a way to get open when Mahomes is in trouble. And that kind of gets me a little nervous. And they got I forgot the running back. I think it's
Williams. Is it Williams?
No, Tahir.
Yeah.
I think he comes back this week.
Okay, so yeah. Oh yeah, from LSU.
So that's gonna be a concern. But I think you're right. I think the advantage that the Cowboys have is their receiving core in Zeke. Because they can, if they do the right things, they can control the game and keep Mahomes off the field. And if they can get up and get a substantial lead, then they can control the game. And that takes away some of the advantage.
And I think, too, Kansas City secondary is not that good. I mean, they average.
Yeah.
And I think the Cowboys got an edge as a receiver. And it's gonna be hard to hold the receivers. And the way the receivers are playing, man, they just playing lights out, Rob. They making big plays. And
no question.
So I just think if they put their game plan together, Kansas City really don't have a home field advantage no more like they used to. The fans, they don't take the fans out because did you look at their games when they played at home? They hadn't been that good.
Yeah. And it's going to be an interesting game for the Cowboys. Now, the left tackle is supposed to be back, so that helps them. And then, I think the combination of Zeke and Powell is helping them. And I think having Michael Gallup back, because now you can't it takes the pressure off of CeeDee Lamb and makes CeeDee Lamb more effective. And on defense, the only thing I ever worry about, if they can isolate Clayton, whatever, if they can isolate him, Kansas City can take advantage of him.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. But I think the Cowboys have a good shot. I think they're like a 2.5 underdog in here, but I think it's going to be a better game than people anticipate.
Yeah, and I just hope that the run game. No, Zeke and Paul have been really doing a good job, and then if they use the tight end too. So I mean,
Their
personnel is really looking good for the Cowboys for us having options and things to go to.
And we got to comment the Cowboys offense. They're playing pretty good, the offensive line. Connor Williams is the one who's making a lot of mistakes and getting in a lot of penalties.
Yeah, he got
it looks like we only got 2 minutes left. Anything you got to say?
Well, I just think, this is the playoff run. This is where things going to get really, really testy. You got a lot of teams that's in that midseason. I even heard a comment about, if you look at the Atlanta Braves and where they were midseason, this is midseason, then a lot of teams can still move in those positions to have that playoff run. So, I know you don't compare baseball with football, but there's some similarities coming out of this pandemic. So I literally think that the Giants going to take a run for it. And
Philly.
But
here's the thing.
Anybody playing the NFC East right now, they can be beaten in any given week, to be honest.
No question. But here's the thing is how poor the NFC East was last year. It's a lot better this year.
Absolutely.
You saw what Philly did and obviously what the Cowboys did this week. And New York was on a bye. Washington goes to Tampa Bay. Nobody anticipated. The East is improving. And here's the scary thing. Is that the East is going to be even better next year because if you look at some of the draft picks Philly's going to get and New York and things of that nature, the East is coming back. They're going to be the beast again. They are on their way back.
I love the East. The NFC East is the place to be, to watch some football.
Yeah. Well, that's it for us tonight. It's 8 o'clock.
One good
thing, guys. I'll see you next week.
Well, we always have some good players to come on. Rocket was amazing. Talking about some good old days. And man, to give you the insight, the things that you don't necessarily hear every day. That's what it's all about. That's what football is all about.
Yep.
Have a good week.